When was the last time you were patient?
Gosh, not any time recently. That's for sure.
Yeah?
I'm just not a very patient person.
Well, let me tell you how patient I am.
Oh.
The other day, I had to wait a whole 10 minutes at the drive-thru at Whataburger.
Oh, wow. I'm sure that takes a load of patience.
And I only said 3 bad words. That's how patient I am.
In summary, we're not very patient people.
Well, guess what? Today we're going to be talking about patience because the title of today's show is, if you haven't seen, is Quit Being Impatient. So we're going to talk a lot about patience and what it is and how not to be the opposite of patient.
Wow.
Is that enough negatives for you?
Yes.
All right. Well, hopefully today we can teach you like what patience is and how you can learn to love it and why it's a good thing. And yeah, maybe it'll motivate you to quit being impatient like we are.
Hopefully it doesn't take too long, though.
Yeah. Welcome to the Let's Quit podcast.
Quitting is not always a bad thing.
If you have the right mindset, quitting can be the most powerful tool you have on your journey to success. It's certainly been helpful for us.
Whether it's flying through hurricanes, building our businesses, or just trying to get to bed on time, we're always trying to level up and improve our lives.
This is the show where we share the lessons, experiences, and friends that have helped us live this incredible life. So let's quit the bad and grow the good together. Oh, welcome back. It's been a while. I mean, I know you guys have listened to a podcast, but that's because we were prepared and we've been gone for a couple weeks.
Yes.
So it's been a while since we have talked at a camera talked at you vis-a-vis this camera.
Yes.
So.
But we're back, and it feels really good to be back because we kind of missed it.
Yeah. I mean, podcasts are fun. It's something we like to do. And
yep.
Anyway, welcome back. Thank
yes.
you to all of our listeners. Thank you for sticking with us, even though from your perspective, we really didn't go anywhere.
From our perspective, we've been gone for just a little while. But thank you for supporting us either way, especially you guys that are on Patreon and support us. You guys are awesome. It means the world to us. And we'd love a review if you've got a little bit of time.
So this is a fully listener-supported show, so we can only do this based on your donations on Patreon. So if you'd like to support the show, go to patreon.com/jennieanddavis and select the tier that fits you best so we can keep doing this podcast.
Yes.
And again, like Jennie said, we would love a review. 5 stars is our preferred rating, so if you can find it in your heart to dig up 5 stars, we'd really appreciate that. If you feel inclined to leave less than 5 stars, pretend we didn't have this conversation. Anyway, no, we also have an email if you want to get in touch with us. We've gotten some feedback from other channels, so I guess we don't say that enough. We have an email set up for this podcast. It's called letsquitpodcast@gmail.com. Yes. You can send us your thoughts, concerns, questions, smart remarks there. Yeah, let's get into it. So we've been gone. Last you heard from us in our story was that we had power back for a very small window of time in Houston because it was in the middle of that ice storm.
Yeah, if you guys didn't hear, there's a really big winter storm that rolled through Texas. It messed with the power grid pretty badly, like throughout the whole state. But Houston especially got hit pretty hard. There was snow on the ground, which is very rare for Houston. Snow all over the poor palm trees. People's power was going out. We were without water. But it started to come back for us. We got our power back after a couple of days, and I think we were only without water for like a day and a half, which is nice because we have a lot of neighbors that did not fare that well. They had pipes bursting. And
yeah.
It was a huge mess.
I'm so glad I'm so thankful that we don't have to deal with like an insurance claim or anything like that right now. So anyway, we lucked out. There was nothing else that went into it. It was just luck. It had nothing to do with our preparedness or anything like that. Anyway, just crazy how that happens. But I mean, we're good. It seems like everybody else on the street is good. It's not like a global pandemic or anything like that. So,
right.
Yeah, we're good. We got power back as soon as so we went another night without power after recording that last podcast. Then we got power on the day that we left for Mississippi. Mm-hmm. Which I'll get into in a minute. And so we were just hoping everything would stay the same when we left, and sure enough, it did.
Think it did.
Then we left and we went to Mississippi for a night, and then we flew out of Mississippi and we went to Reno, Nevada.
Yes, not commercial flying. This was with our Air Force unit, our other job outside of this, our part-time jobs.
Yeah. And we spent 2 weeks flying through atmospheric rivers, which, what's an atmospheric river? I didn't know until I found out. So now you're going to find out. An atmospheric river is basically just a big weather pattern that sets up over the Pacific Ocean. It's a lot of moisture in the air, lots of clouds. And it basically, the way the wind works, it pushes all of that moisture onto the west coast of the U.S., causes a lot of rain, a lot of snow on the west coast. It's what they think are causing a lot of mudslides and stuff like that. So they wanted to get more research on it just so the forecasters can like better predict these mudslides and these other crazy weather events. So they tasked us to fly through these like really cold upper air moist systems and drop weather instruments throughout just so they can better understand what's going on in these systems.
Just so we can get real data, because, you know, you can predict what it'll do, but if you have like actual real numbers to go off of from the atmosphere, makes the forecast better.
Right. So even though we're the hurricane hunters, we do far more than just fly through hurricanes.
Yes.
So anyway, we spent 2 weeks out there. We're flying. It was long missions. They were like 10, 11 hours.
Yeah.
I flew, 3 or 4 times? You flew?
I flew 3 times.
3
also.
times. So just nuts, long hours, long days. But our days off are filled with a lot of fun because, you know, long working days also usually means long days off. And so we spent a lot of time learning to snowboard, actually.
Mm-hmm,
I had never done any snow sports in my life. This is my first experience. And I knew that snowboarding was harder, which is why I wanted to do it first.
Yeah.
Just because and also snowboarding is just objectively cooler. Like
it is.
It is. Like just it's
like
cooler.
You think of all the movies, like it's always like the cool snowboarding dudes. It's kind of like the cool surfer dudes in movies. But I don't know. I skied once. I think I was about like 12 or 13 years old. And it was fun, but I mean, it's been like 10, 11 years. So it's not like I'm really going to remember a whole lot of skiing or like have a whole lot of muscle memory because it was so long ago. So I was like, well, I just need to pick one. Like, do I want to pick up skiing or snowboarding? Because I feel like I have the amount of skill for either, which is not much.
But you said skiing, like it all came right back to you. So
it did come back to me. It's just getting used to like turning and stopping and balancing and all that kind of stuff. But I also tried snowboarding, and that was a lot of fun.
How did that go?
My left knee is still very stiff. I've got a couple of bruises. You fall a lot when you're learning to snowboard.
Yeah, I knew that, but I thought, oh, you're snow, whatever. It's a soft fall.
Not necessarily. No. Not when it's packed down because the slopes are, jam packed with people.
That was one thing I grossly underestimated was that falling on a snowboard hurts. I mean, bad. I'm pretty sure I bruised, if not broke, my tailbone just because it got so bad.
I had one wipeout where it was like my first real hill and I was all excited. I was like, all right, we're just going to do it. Give it a shot. I was scared. And then I caught my front edge and I went flying forward.
You went like Superman.
Yes, Superman. Like my arms were out. My board was up behind my head.
Forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And all the like really good snowboarders were like coming up behind me because they were finishing up the hill and like, oh my gosh, like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm good, man. I'm good.
Yeah. Man, that was a steep hill though. That should not have been a green route. That was definitely.
Yeah, that was pretty steep.
That was blue level steepness for sure. But anyway, that was fun. Got to learn to do that. I talked myself into and then out of buying a snowboard. So thanks for talking me out of that, Jenny.
Yes.
Man, if we lived somewhere closer, man, I'd buy one in a heartbeat. But we live in Houston.
We live in tropical Houston.
And even if we went, so that's the other thing. Is like we've been flying out of Reno for these missions the last couple of years because of COVID restrictions and stuff on the West Coast. So I don't think we're going to be back to Reno anytime soon. And where we used to go for these atmospheric river missions, of course I wasn't in the unit at that point, but like it's like, where is it? It's San Francisco, San Diego,
definitely California
or Hawaii
based.
So again, like I'm not going to be anywhere where I can go snowboarding.
Right.
So unless I go out of my way. So snowboard is probably a stupid decision. I'm just trying to further justify that to myself because I really want to snowboard.
Yeah, we're not around a lot of snow until a once in a 100 year snowstorm hits Houston. And that's still not enough to snowboard.
So anyway, stupid purchase. Glad I didn't make it. Moving on.
Yeah. But the views were also absolutely beautiful.
Oh
so it's like when we were having a hard time where you just kept falling on the snowboard, you just look up and you were like, there's like Tahoe. And it was absolutely beautiful.
Beautiful. So definitely will do again.
Yeah.
Just don't know when.
Right.
So we also made some sales. If you've watched our YouTube videos on.
Just came out yesterday. Yeah.
Well, by the time you're listening to this yesterday,
Yes,
as
the
a
video
time of
came out
recording, it came out this morning. So, we made some sales while we were gone. It was pretty cool. It made us realize that we weren't being patient, which is kind of the impetus. Is it impetus? Impetus.
That's a big word.
It's an SAT word. And the impetus for this podcast was us realizing that we were being extremely impatient with our business. So right before we left for all this atmospheric river nonsense, it's not nonsense, but before we left, we were starting to get a little bit negative about like, oh, why aren't we making sales?
Yeah.
Because we want, like, every month we want to grow. We know we're going to have bad months, but like we expected on month 2 to sell more than in month 1.
Yeah, I was about to say, let's give some people perspective. Like, we officially started going out, like actively selling and marketing our business in January. So the beginning of January. And it's the beginning of March right now. So we've really only been at it, like actively selling and talking to people in the community for 2 months now. But after that first month, we were like so hard on ourselves. We're like, what? We, only made this much money in profit? Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, we made like $400 in profit or something like that.
Yeah.
And so we were hoping February would be a lot better, and the sales just weren't coming in. Mm-hmm. And then we had the snowstorm, and we didn't want to blame everything on the ice storm. Like, look, if 1 week of a missed sales should not be the determining factor for whether or not we succeeded that month or not. So It's just 1 out of the 4 weeks in that month. So we were just being super hard on ourselves. Then we left for 2 weeks, and we made so many sales while we were gone. We just thought we weren't going to get any business done. We thought, okay, with the ice storm and with being gone for 2 weeks in February, we just weren't going to get anything done.
Yeah, we just said February is going to kind of be a wash when it comes to sales. We'll pick it back up when we're home in March.
Right. So that's why we were beating ourselves up. But when we were gone, we got sales. We got some online. We got some, like you made some, like with some coworkers in the Air Force. Like it was just really cool to see that like what we're doing is working. We just have to slow down and be a little bit more patient about it.
Yeah. So we ended up getting a couple of emails that we made online sales, which was really cool, especially because they were from people we didn't know. So like when we talk to realtors and reach out to certain businesses to try to like, I don't know, give them a proposal or, sell them cutting boards or whatever, we keep track of who we talk to just so we can follow back up again. So we're pretty familiar with all the names of people. But these sales, like we did not recognize the names at all, which is a good sign because it means they got our information from somebody who is not us, either a word of mouth referral or they found our website or our social media. So that was really motivating that like we've put in enough work over the last 2 months that other people are starting to pass our name around.
Yeah, like everything in life is like farming or gardening, right? So like we weren't giving these seeds that we had planted enough time to sprout.
Right.
And so we were just getting impatient. We're like, why don't I have bananas yet? I just planted the tree a week ago. Come on, banana tree.
So I'm just thinking about this now, but this is probably why we don't have a garden in our yard. Never, ever have we ever had a garden.
We haven't even thought about it.
We've never had an herb garden. No, that's a lie. We had an herb garden once at the very beginning of our woodworking business. When we lived in Minot, North Dakota. One of our builds was just like a little white chalk painted herb garden, like a DIY
Didn't
plant
they all
box.
like die in a week or something?
Yes, they did. We planted them and I was all excited. I was like, we're going to have mint and basil and rosemary and whatever else on the windowsill. And then I was like, why aren't these growing yet?
Nobody got
Maybe
time
they need
for
more
that.
water. Maybe they need less water. I was just making so many changes to the poor plants so quickly that they all died because I was like way too impatient to actually take good care of them.
Okay, so now that we are expertly qualified to talk about patience... Welcome to the Let's Quit podcast, where we talk about things we have no authority on. Let's jump into the title topic. All right, Jenny, hit him with the quote.
All right, this week's quote is, "Patience and perseverance have a magical effect before which difficulties disappear and obstacles vanish." And that is by John Quincy Adams.
Yes.
Yes. So... before which difficulties disappear and obstacles vanquish. Like that's a pretty powerful thing for one concept to be able to do.
So we called this podcast Quit Being Impatient. Before we even looked up the definition of patience. I had never looked it up. Have you looked it up before?
I have not. I've just been like, oh, I get it.
Everybody knows what patience is. It's
patience is patience. It's like, it's waiting, you know, you're waiting in a waiting room before you go to the dentist. You know, you're waiting on your mom to take you to your sports as a kid. Husbands are waiting on their wives to get ready to go out to dinner somewhere. That's patience.
Yeah. So I actually Googled it and looked it up, and the formal definition of patience, this kind of hit hard. So get ready.
Yeah.
Patience is the capacity to accept or tolerate trouble or suffering without getting angry or upset. I didn't expect that definition to be so heavy. It's just like right in the face.
Yeah, because it's basically saying, hey, you have to be able to tolerate delay, trouble, or suffering without getting angry or upset. So it's not just like being good at waiting. It's not just being good at
It's not just waiting. It's being good at waiting. It's waiting and then not getting emotionally upset.
Right. So not only are you waiting, but you're also responsible for controlling your emotions. Like you have to have a really good hold on your emotional state to be like good at having patience or even having patience at all. And I think that's the hardest part, because what's the first thing you do when you're slowed down or something doesn't go as planned? You know, you get frustrated, angry. You get nervous and anxious, and
because that also is the impetus. Keyword of the day.
Gosh.
That is the impetus for like you to continue pursuing your goals. Like you should be a little bit angry that you don't achieve your goals, because that's going to push you forward to achieving it. So patience is sort of this like double-edged sword of like, hey man, you got to set a good goal, but then you also have to do continually what is going to bring you that goal. And you can't get super upset about it, but you still have to keep pursuing it. So that patience is a very difficult thing to master.
Yeah.
We aren't even remotely close to being experts on it. So we're just explaining our intro to patience as it was. So anyway, so if impatience is the opposite of that, we are the definition of impatient, because we are constantly getting angry and upset for bumps in the road or for things not going to plan. And we're starting to realize like we're making and losing money based on our ability to have patience.
Yes. And then when you put it in that sense, you know, it's kind of upsetting that like something as little as being impatient can lose you money.
You just got to be patient about it.
I know. Yeah. Okay. Podcast over. There you go. In summary.
Why is patience good? Why does it work? Why does like waiting produce the result that you want? Why does patience work? So the way that I was putting this together was that when you have patience, your opposition, you know, your bumps in the road or whatever's slowing you down or whatever is like causing suffering or pain or whatever, is temporary. Like everything in life is temporary. And so like when you have those struggles, if you have more patience and more like level-headedness than your obstacle does, you're going to beat it every time. So it's just a waiting game. If you can practice waiting without getting upset, without screwing it up further, you're going to beat your obstacle every single time. As long as you're doing the right thing, as long as you're doing the thing that will continue to bring you your goal, if you can do that longer than your opposition can push against you, you're going to win. And so that's why you see all these quotes and everything about patience, is because if you can just have more of it, you will automatically beat whatever obstacle is in your way. Yeah, it's
whoever has the most patience wins the game.
Correct.
Like the biggest players in the industry too. I feel like whoever was able to wait out their hardships like the longest were the ones that succeeded.
Right. And so whoever's got more resources too. So the first example that popped into my mind was the military. The military has just a famous level of patience. Like, first of all, if you have any request in the military, the first answer is no. It's like
automatically.
It's a joke. Ask a service member, you know. Like, it's a joke. The first time you ask for something, answer is immediately no, but probably before you even finish explaining what it is that you want. Mm-hmm. The second answer is usually no. It's like, no, that's not how we do things.
That's not how it's been done in the past, kind of a deal.
Right. And then the third answer is like, well, why do you want to do this? Make your case to me, because I'm sitting on the throne of what is going to happen.
Yeah. Meanwhile, like 2 months has passed just in these like first 3 questions.
Right. This is not all in one interaction. It's
no.
Hey, sir or ma'am, can I have this afternoon off? No. Well, you know, my kid is being born. Do you think that maybe I could be there for my wife and my kid? And it's like, well, that's not how we do things. The schedule's already been made. Well, I get that, but like, can I please, I know it's been a couple weeks, have you thought about it some more? It's like, well, why do you want to be there for the birth of your son? You signed up to serve in the military. That's a higher commitment than you have to your, like, I'm not even joking. Like, that's some of the conversations that I've heard. Like, it's insanity of like some of the things that the military just has the ultimate amount of patience to weed out people that aren't serious.
Yeah.
Because you got to look at it. You got hundreds of thousands of people in your organization and everybody wants something. You can't listen to everybody. You can't give everything to everybody. So the first step is to just say no to see how much patience do you have? How important is this to you? If it's
how badly
to
do you need these resources? How badly do you need this manning?
If it's important to you, you will have patience for it. That's like the system that the military has built is like who's got the most amount of patience. That's the person that's going to get what they want.
Right.
So, I'll let you tell the story now. So like with your package to become a hurricane hunter, like it was a totally legal thing to do. You were not breaking any rules to do it, but you got told no at least half a dozen times.
I was switching from one job I had on active duty Air Force to a different job in the Air Force Reserves. So active duty, I was full time. I was still doing something meteorology related, but I had to switch to being a part-time reservist flying through hurricanes. And that's not something people typically did, like at all. It was very uncommon to switch career fields. Usually when you did that, it means you did something wrong or they don't they don't like how you're performing in your job and they're going to put you somewhere else or you washed out of a school or whatever. So just by me saying I wanted to do this was like weird and threw up red flags to quite a few people.
But the important thing to note is that there was a program for you to do this. Like there was a regulation written and that said, here's the whole process of how you do this if you want to do it. But like so few people did it. Everybody was uncomfortable with it. Plus there's like emotional stuff. So like when you go from full-time to part-time military, the full-time people get kind of angry at you because they don't think that you're serving the right way. Because like you're on a contract to serve. And you were part of the program is that you apply to serve the rest of your contract as a reservist.
Yeah.
You actually end up serving longer. So the Air Force is getting more years out of you, which is why it just blows our mind that people had a problem with this program. But you were actually going to serve longer. It was just in a part-time capacity instead of a full-time capacity.
So basically I had to get all this paperwork sent up to like approve me for this process. And it was one of those things where people were very hesitant. So they'd say like, oh, well, I don't know what everybody else is going to say. Like, it'll probably get disapproved at a higher level. Like, I'll say yes now, but like, don't be surprised if people say no down the line. I'm like, cool, great.
But you were straight up told no several times. Like people, like your boss, like in the military, you got like 18,000 bosses. But like your bosses at the lowest level told you straight up no. Yeah. You had to go like up the chain like 3 levels before your squadron commander finally told you
that would say yes.
Right. And
so I don't know. I felt like the whole time I was like kayaking like the wrong way in a river. I was just like paddling myself upstream when everybody else was flowing downstream.
It was going up the chain. You finally got your package moving. And then one of your like bosses had it that wasn't even supposed to have it. And he was just holding on to it because he didn't want to let you go from the unit or whatever.
Yeah, and people are just uncomfortable saying yes to this whole process, so they would sit on it and wait.
And you were about to hit a deadline where you were going to lose this job if you didn't get your package done. So you finally had to Jennie finally had to threaten a formal investigation of why her package wasn't being signed in the appropriate way before they finally said, oh, shoot, she's serious. Let's move this thing through. So on the back end of all that, of course, we were like, our hair was on fire through this whole process. Yeah. But on the back end now, we see the beauty of the patient system, as frustrating as it is in some regards. Like, you can weed out a lot of problems just by being patient. Like, because if everybody who applied to this program, like if their package went through perfectly fine, there'd be nobody left on active duty.
Yeah.
Like, this is a very difficult program for a reason, is because like they can't let everybody do it. So they've got to put up like walls of patience to see who really wants to do it. So it was really cool to see that, like, look, if you just keep doing what you're doing and you're just patient, as mind numbing as it is to do the same thing every day and not see anything different, that's actually what's going to give you progress.
Right.
So, yeah, it was just really cool to see that perspective, and we just need to start implementing that level of patience in everything that we do. So that brings us to our action steps now.
All right. So the first action step is don't judge your idea or your process until you've given it plenty of time and reps. Like you've allowed it to work itself out. So for us, like in the first month of running our business, we were expecting, more sales because we put in reps at the beginning and talking to a bunch of realtors and a bunch of other businesses. But where we went wrong was we didn't wait long enough for things to actually
take
work.
root.
Yeah. So that's the first one is like, you can do everything in the world right, but you have to give it time to actually work for you.
Right. So the second action step, this is supposed to help you with like maintaining your emotional like stability, even though you face adversity. So step number 2 is expect roadblocks and schedule time for them. We talk about this all the time. We overschedule time because we expect things to pop up and not work. The other day with a cutting board. So here's an example when we did this. We just got a cutting board order that was 2 cutting boards in one order, which we hadn't seen before. And the guy actually used the website the right way. You can even hear how I'm explaining it. Like we were expecting the customers to fill it out wrong, to not do the right thing. We've been trying to prepare for every catastrophe that when somebody does it right, we're surprised and we're happy. So This guy ordered 2 boards and he filled everything out the correct way. He typed in all of his information the right way. And it was just shocking to us that somebody used the system and it worked right the first time.
Because we spend all our time preparing for the people that are going to do it horribly wrong.
Right. So if you schedule time for your roadblocks to pop up, if you expect a fight with the cable company when you pick up the phone to call, like things go a lot easier because you're expecting the worst, and anything less than the worst is an improvement.
Yeah.
So you can sort of like play the game with yourself there. But those are our 2 action steps: is don't judge an idea or process till you've given it plenty of time. And then expect roadblocks, schedule for them, anticipate them, and that'll help keep your emotional state steadier through the road bumps, ups and downs of life.
So, in summary, try to be patient. We know it's hard. We are the poster children for impatience many days.
Yes.
But now that I know that definition of patience hits so hard, like, man, that hit home. And patience isn't what I thought it was.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I look at it in a new light now.
And that's all we can expect to do in this podcast is just look at things in a different light.
Yes.
And maybe stop some bad habits. So, cool. Do we have any announcements?
I don't think so.
Cool. We were going to tease next week's title, but we're going to see if you can practice some patience. Also, we haven't figured it out yet. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.